Welcome back to another episode of Your Body Speaks. I am Dr. Brook, and I am so excited you are with me today. I have a special guest I'm excited to introduce you to. Before I do that, I want to read a little bit about her so you get an idea of who you are about to hear from. My guest, and I'm going to give you her name in just a second, is a diet culture free, ladies, certified personal trainer and nutrition coach. She advocates for both rest days, amen to rest days, right? But also having dessert. She helps women move forward with grace and strength so that they can fulfill their purpose. She's the host of the Grace Health podcast, author of 2 books, and the creator of the online course Strong and Vibrant at Home, which is strength training and wellness for Christian women in perimenopause and beyond. She lives in the Houston, Texas area with her husband and dog, Grace, a stray turned princess pit bull, and they have 2 college-age sons, and they regularly talk about how much money they save on groceries with both of those college boys out of the house. So who's this mystery guest I've just shared about? Her name is Amy Connell. Amy, thank you so much for being here today. I'm so excited.
Hey, Brooke, it's so fun to be here. Thank you for inviting me into your podcast home.
Yes, absolutely. And we have such an overlap of audiences
Yes, we
that we
do.
serve. And so I really thought that your voice would be such a great voice to have on the podcast, because I know a lot of women hear me saying a lot of things, and sometimes they're just like familiarity breeds, or however that saying
Yeah.
goes, right? If you get familiar with a concept so much, it's just kind of like in one ear, out the other. And so I feel like hearing a different voice that's saying a lot of the things that I've been teaching and speaking about is going to be such a beautiful time for these ladies. So, on that note, I do want to start with your story. I love people getting a chance to know you a little deeper. So you shared that you grew up in an immersed diet culture before finding more of the grace-filled approach to health. So can you walk us through that journey and like what that looks like now, who you were before, who you are now?
Absolutely. One thing I'll just start with, because I think this helps people understand, is I am currently 51 years old, which means I grew up in the mid 80s, early 90s. And what was all the rage there was, of course, thin, thin, thin. In the 90s, that very thin Ally McBeal was kind of like all the rage. And so, of course, that's what I wanted to be. I grew up dancing, and I love dancing. I love moving my body, and I'm so grateful for it. But there were just a few little experiences here and there that just had this messaging of smaller body is better. Now, I know people can't see me if they are listening to this, but I am 5'4". I have a very muscular body. I was not meant to be the body of Ally McBeal or anyone else. And spent much of my 20s and early 30s just really trying to manage the size of my body. I was very obsessive about the food that I ate. I was very obsessive about the exercise I was going to do, because what I wanted to do was work off the food that I was eating. I was always kind of trying to come in that negative balance. I used to joke that I would try to go to bed hungry every night, so that way I felt like I could eat my arm off in the morning. I was undernourishing myself pretty significantly. Never like an eating disorder, but definitely something that would fall under disordered eating. In my mid 30s, I did something very new to me, and I started a small group through my church. I had never been a part of one, and God just kind of called me into that. So I'm in this small group, and I'm growing with these women, and I'm growing in my relationship with God, and really, really deepening my relationship with God. And at the same time, I'm focused, obsessed, just really, really thinking about all of the exercise, all of the food, all of that kind of stuff. And these 2 things were kind of they were going not in the same direction, because I had basically made an idol out of all things, we'll put in quotes, health. I made an idol out of, getting the perfect nutrients and getting all of the movement and all of that kind of stuff. One day I was just folding laundry. I mean, I wish it was something like really cool and exciting that I could say I was doing, but I was just folding laundry. And I heard God whispering to me, Amy, you are spending more time thinking about the food you're going to eat and the exercise you're going to do than you're thinking about me. Yeah, right. I mean,
Wow.
I know. I know. And I so wish I could do one of those. I can't remember. I was on drill team too. And like one of like about face, but like, where you stick your foot around and then twirl all the way around.
Yes.
That was not it. It just kind of sat with me. And I remember it just gave me pause and kind of made my eyes open. And then the best way I can describe it is it was like a small rudder on a big cruise ship. And it just
Mm,
slowly, slowly, slowly turned me to realizing that my body is not here to be managed. It's not here to be a
mhm,
particular size, one that I want or one that society says I should have, but it's here to love God and love and serve others. In essence, I take care of my body so I can do what I'm called to do. Not
mhm,
so it'll look a certain way, but so
mhm.
it can be and function and feel in a way that it can do whatever God is wanting me to do, either in those little micro moments of having enough clarity and mental energy to have a productive podcast interview in the afternoon, or if it's something big, so that way I can be an active grandma when that time comes. That's not time, hopefully, no time soon, for the record.
Yeah.
But whatever that is, that's why I take care of myself. God loves me. God's not asking me to be a certain size. God did not put BMI in the Bible, which thank goodness our health community is starting to move away from that. But like, there's no height and weight chart in the Bible. But
Yeah.
what it is a call to love God fully, to
Mhm.
love others, and to use our bodies as a vessel to be able to fulfill that.
Gosh, so beautiful. You're never going to look at laundry the same way ever. You will forever. And it may seem super mundane, you're folding laundry, but you remember the moment. And
Right.
like you said, the small rudder to a big cruise ship, it just was like that one moment in that quiet time that you didn't even know was coming. It wasn't like you were asking for it. It wasn't that you were even realizing you had an issue. It was like
Right.
that quiet
Yes.
moment from the whisper, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I didn't answer the second half of the question, but that's a great lead into that. And so
Mhm.
about actually Graced Health is in 2026 10 years old. So it was about 11 10 and a
Yeah.
half years old, and I was just I don't unsettled is the only way that I know how to describe it. I was just unsettled and I was emotional and crying all the time, and it's kind of a longer story, but basically I was prompted through the same Bible study. We were still together, and I just spent time with God outside, and I called it my be still time, and be still and know that I am God. And I felt him saying, just sit with me. You don't need to bring all the praises. You don't need to bring all the prayers. You don't need to bring all the things. Just be in my presence. And so that song, Holy Spirit by Francisca Bettistelli,
Mhm.
and I just played that on repeat. And I was like, God, I don't know what you're wanting me to do, but I'm ready. Like, I'm ready to be passionate. I'm ready to be doing something. And over time, God whispered so very quietly, right, right. And he said, I want you to write about giving yourself grace in your health, because I had kind of started to integrate some of that. And really, that's where Graced Health was born. Graced Health was born as a blog. Blog posts are very hidden. There was a lot of flushing out of my writing and getting a voice. But he told me then, he said, hey, I'm going to have you, I want you to write. I want you to start a blog. And one day you'll write a book. And I just sat on it and I waited until he called me, and during COVID, actually, he was like, all right, you got
Mm.
some time, girl. Let's go write. And so I wrote that, and since have written another one. But really that was the impetus of Graced Health, was being on that journey, being just on the cruise ship of slightly turning, and then taking the time to be still and listen to what he wanted me to do.
Mm. Okay, I want to unpack this just a little bit, just for the listeners, because you said something so profound there that I think a lot of people can easily just brush through. It is truly about sitting in those moments, those quiet moments with God. But also, Amy says, you won't find those blog posts. They're kind of hidden. You might have to scour the internet to find them, because at that point in time, she may have not been perfect or at the level that she is now with what she's doing, but she did it. So she took that act of faith and still sat down on her keyboard, pen in hand, however she did it, and wrote and did what God commanded her to do. Not because she had all the green lights, not because everything was set up correctly, not because all of the circumstances lined up to make that happen, but because she was acting in obedience. And so I just want to encourage you, listener, that you may not feel, of course, this is a health podcast. I speak all about how the body is so wise and how it speaks. And we can attach this to health as well. You don't have to have every perfect step lined up for the next 5, 10 years in front of you to be able to take action. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you so much for sharing that, Amy. That's so beautiful. And that really allows us to transition too into the next question about, you do talk about the body, and having grace with the body as we get older. What does that actually look like in real life as our bodies change? Because I'm 10 years younger, so 41. I'm kind of going through that like cycle shifts where I'm like, hey, we're not the same as we were even 5 years ago. Like, what's going on? Right. So things are starting to happen in my body too that I'm getting more aware of. What does that look like?
Yeah, it is. And I just want to take a minute and say thank you for connecting those dots with, it doesn't have to be perfect, because I
Yes.
think that is a wonderful example of our health world as well. And it might just be that we just need to start with like drinking more water or whatever, but you don't have to go all in. And maybe we'll talk about that here in a second. But I've never put those pieces together. And so thank you for
Yeah.
that. I learned something from you today. Yeah. I mean, as far as giving our body grace as we get older. So I have a confession. I have been a fitness professional for 20 years. I have been a personal trainer for, I think, close to 8. I can't really remember. And in my early 40s, I just would hear all this stuff about, we heard a little bit about perimenopause then, but basically like you hit menopause and your body totally changes. And if I'm totally honest, Brooke, I would hear that and think, yeah, that's not going to happen to me. Like I know what
Yeah.
to do. I eat my salads. I strength train. Like that's not gonna happen to me. What's that? Man plans, God laughs. I mean,
Yep.
I tell you what, I also am one of these women who it seems like in 2 months, I mean, huge changes within her body. And it is hard. I don't care who you are. I don't care how healthy your mindset is. When your body changes, let's just say without your permission, and quite honestly, like not even understanding why, like I really am doing the same things. It is really hard. And so I think the first thing is just giving yourself the grace that as your body changes, and it may not be, menopause related, but it might be that you can't run as far as you used to, or lift as much as you used to, or bend down and reach your toes as close as you could. I mean, it can show up in a lot of different ways, but just the grace that you're not alone and that this just happens to our bodies. I hate to break it to you, but we are all terminal. Like none of us lives forever. And
Right.
great news, those of us who are Christ followers, like we're confident in
Mhm.
where we're going. And so that's okay because we're going somewhere better where your hips don't hurt when you get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. It's okay. But that would be, one of the things I think too, just understanding that things are not going to look or move the same way. I love running. I feel like there is, for me, no better way to get that endorphin boost, what they call the runner's high. I can't run for distance anymore. It just does not work for my body. I pay too much for it. It's not worth the risk. In my house, we have a lot of conversations about risk versus reward. It's not worth, I mean, the reward is not the risk of not feeling well. Everything may not be the same way. However, can we be creative? Can we take a different
Mm.
approach? And so for me in my running world, that means I don't go out and run 5 miles, but I will do little sprints because I'm one of these really weird people who like to do sprints. And I know not everybody does, but maybe being creative of like, okay, I love this and I can't do it anymore. Is there something I can do different? Maybe I enjoy a stair climber instead, or maybe I enjoy, like whatever it is. And it may be that you start lifting heavy things and you realize this feels good. Maybe I don't need to go out and run miles and miles. And then, finally too, Brooke, I mean, just like those of us who have birthed children know, and even if you have children that came not from your womb, but just came into your world, your body is going to change with that because the
Mhm.
goldfish are always on the table. And your body changes. And so not only does that happen after you have your children, but it happens throughout your life because our bodies were designed to change. I mean, I think my friend Heather Creekmore of the Compared to Who podcast, she talks a
Yeah.
lot about this
He
and
was on the
how,
show, so go back and
yes,
listen to that episode, you guys. I think it's episode 20 something, 27,
okay,
27.
okay. I didn't realize that. And I
Yeah.
love and
Yeah.
adore Heather. And she's just
Yeah.
she just has such a great faith-filled focus on body size and, body image. And it's always a great reminder to know that our bodies were meant to change. I think about, we were on a family vacation years and years ago. So my youngest is 20 right now, and he was turning 1, I think. So he was little bitty. And we were out at a beach town or something, and my mother-in-law was carrying my youngest around. And he had been on my hip and he had been on my husband's hip, and he was fussy and all of that. And she just was like the most loving, patient grandma. And, and she was a grandma and she had a little few curves. And you know what he did? He curled up and fell peacefully asleep because
Yeah.
she just had what he needed. She had a
Yeah.
little cushioning, and what a gift that is. And I think we forget about
Yeah.
that. Like, that can be a gift that she just got to carry him around all day. I mean, I'm sure her back was killing her, her arms were, were tired, but that she could just have that moment with our child, and we couldn't have either. It's just constantly reminding ourselves that God didn't ask us to be a certain way. Of course, we're going to change. I'm not the same person in my mind that I was when I was 20. Thank God. Thank you, Jesus, that I am no longer as judgmental, as obsessive, as black and white thinking, and that I have changed, and so has my body. And I wouldn't change what's in my mind for 20, 30 years ago, and I wouldn't change what's on my body now, because all that it has done for me.
So beautiful. My heart just wants to like pound out of my chest just with all the feels. It's truly about honoring our bodies, guys. It's not about trying to push them and make them respond a certain way. And Amy said it so beautifully with, maybe you used to be able to do the 5-mile run, but really breaking it down to what you can do now and not beating yourself up for that, but showing gratitude to your body for being able to still do the mile or the sprint or whatever it looks like, carrying heavy weights or doing whatever, right? It's every single season is another opportunity, like you said, even just to kind of grow closer with God in the process. Because it's like, man, this might not be the body I'm really like wanting, but it's also getting to a point where we're just in awe of what he's done, and that this body's been able to carry life, or maybe it didn't carry life, but it supported a lot of other humans, right? Adoptive parents. So beautiful. I want to talk about something you talked about, because this is something I definitely rail a lot against on this podcast, is this idolization, because that was a lot of my story and what I've shared with you in the past. Is I went full blown to the idolization side, and we share that in common, where it was just like controlling every aspect, doing all these different things. What would you say a person should pay attention to, the listeners, like, so she doesn't fall into the valley that we fell into, but that she could still be honoring and not controlling and obsessive and all the things, but still taking care of herself? Because we're not at all advocating to go to the opposite extreme. We're not saying don't have any care for your body, just wing it, eat fast food, drink alcohol, do all these things. We're not advocating for all that. We're just saying, hey, there's an in between from
Right.
both sides.
Yeah,
Do you want to speak
absolutely.
into that, Amy? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the body obsession is real, and definitely part of my story, as well as I shared. And of course, there's a lot more to it. I think the first thing that I would recommend is just, again, and it takes so many reps in our brain of reminding ourselves that we're taking care of ourselves so we can do what we're called to do. And there can be lots of different callings. Like I said, there's those little micro callings of, I got to be focused for today. There's the macro ones, like I call those the big, Moses and the burning bush one. Maybe it's a servanthood one to like support someone. Maybe it's just a seasonal one. But remembering that that is why we are taking care of ourselves. And I think, too, one question that is worth asking ourselves and answering honestly is, what's the intent of what I'm doing? You can take two people, and let's just use a salad as an example. You can take two people who have a salad for lunch, and the intent behind them choosing that salad is completely different. One of them might be because they feel like, it's going to help manage their body size, or they're trying to undereat or something like that. The other one might look at that and go, there's a lot of different colors in here, and there's a bunch of different plants, and this is going to fill me up, and I'm going to have sustained energy because there's also some salmon on it. And there's a totally different intent with that. You can have different intents with your exercising. Someone might be going out and going to the gym and lifting weights or running because it's part of their mental health regimen. Or it might be because they're punishing themselves. So I think you have to very honestly ask, what's my intent of what I'm doing with regard to food and movement, which is just one small part of our overall health. And I would love to talk about that here if we get a chance. But, God understands our heart. He knows our heart, and we can't deceive him.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's worth asking that question and answering honestly. And it might be that if you honestly say, yeah, every time I'm eating and every time I'm exercising, it's not so I can use my body to give him glory or to love others and love him and love others, but it's more for a selfish motivation. It might be worth, figuring out how to change that. So maybe it is, okay, I'm going to stop exercising for a little bit so I can get my heart right.
Yes, yes.
And just kind of getting that natural movement in. It might be enlisting the help of a professional, someone in a, registered dietitian with a certified eating disorder specialist. I mean, you don't have to have an eating disorder to work with someone to help you reframe that. But those are kind of my thoughts about that. Stewardship and obsession can be very muddy, or
Yeah.
it can be a beautiful distinction.
I love that. That's so beautiful. We can go deeper into what you would love to talk about in terms of that response with intention, if you want to unpack that more.
Yeah, well, what I was hoping to talk a little bit more about is, especially as someone who grew up in diet culture, the only thing I heard about with regard to health was food and exercise.
Yeah.
That was it. That's all I ever heard about. It was, what are you eating and how much are you moving? And that is the extent of health. Quote,
it's kind of
health.
like the calories in and then versus what you're burning off.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that was it. That was the only thing for longer than I would care to admit, to be quite honest, Brooke, that I thought about when it came to health. And one of the blessings of doing this podcast and one of the blessings of being in this space is I'm a natural learner. And so I love learning stuff. And I was learning previously, but I was learning from, like the real magazines. I was learning from all of the things that only focused on health or only focused on movement and nutrition. But since
body
then, composition. Yes.
Composition. My words today, guys.
Yeah. I mean, I learned a lot. But I only learned about those things. And one of the blessings of doing what I do and having the conversations, like when you came on the Grace Health podcast, is that it is so much more than just those two things. It never occurred to me that sleep has such an impact on our overall, not only physical health, but our mental health, our gut health. Like, girl, you got to sleep. I used to have a friend who'd say, oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead. And I know that was a thing. And I don't know if she still says it or not. She doesn't say it around me, but like sleep, so important. Relationships and connection are so important to our overall health. If you've probably heard of the blue zones. There's actually one out near you in Loma Linda, California.
Like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Away. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's 4 other places around the world. And if you're not familiar with it, basically the blue zones are places where they have a very high amount of people who live to be 100 or greater. So researchers came in and tried to decide, like, what is making these people live so long? And yes, some of that had to do with eating, but really it was just, as far as actually what to eat, it was one of the 9 things, and that was eat a bunch of plants. As far as movement, one of them had to do with movement. And the other things had to do with like connection and belonging and having purpose and having some sort of prayer or meditation or something like that. I mean, these are things that are really important to our overall health, but diet culture, they can't monetize that. And so It's like, but no, you need to join a gym. And now the wellness culture, which has totally lost its mind, is like, now you need all of these 15 supplements that you need to take because you can monetize that.
My gosh. Don't even get me started. But yes, yes, I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. And also drink your water. Like,
Yes,
drink your water. It doesn't have to be only water, but have some water and
yes.
pray. Research has repeatedly shown that people of faith feel better and are healthier. Things like that, again, that can't really be monetized, but like things like that, I think we forget how important they are in combination. Sure, with food, you're eating the food that God gave us and eating and moving your body, but there's just so much more that goes into it rather than, yeah, your calories in and calories expended.
It's wild, and you hit on it. I don't want to like stay here for a long time just because I can be on a soapbox forever about the toxic wellness culture, and people are starting to wake up to it. So this is the beautiful thing. I feel like we're starting to see this major shift, even within the last, I'd say, year or so, where people are like, okay, yeah, like I'm becoming more stressed out tracking all these different things or trying to stay up to speed on all the different, and I'm going to say the word, but don't shoot me if you're a fellow biohacker, but that's the terminology people use a lot is I'm a biohacker, and they wear it with this cloak of pride, like they're so excited to be part of that culture. And I'm like, no, 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 we're not machines. These bodies
Mm-hmm.
are not machines.
Mm-hmm.
They're not. We need to honor them. And when you talk about the 15 supplements and we're trying all these things and we're more stressed out about that, that really puts a big, huge damper on our mental health
Mm-hmm.
and our sense of community and belonging. Because if you're spending hours, so many hours of your day trying to get all the things in that you've heard that you need to do, how much time are you really spending with God? How much time are you really spending with your church community or your friends or your relatives, or just really getting those other parts of you that aren't just the physical parts of you, but the mental, spiritual, and emotional parts of you? Are you nourishing those aspects as well? So it's
Mm-hmm.
huge. It's a
It
big one.
it is, and one thing that I don't hear a lot of discussion about is the biohacking and bro culture, whatever you want to call it. It really comes from a point of extreme privilege.
Hmm.
There are women out there who are just trying to get food on the table for their kids.
Yes.
Like they just are trying, they are single moms, they're working two jobs, their children. I mean, like it is a huge privilege to be able to have the red light machine and the cold plunge and the vitamins and all of that kind of stuff. And I'm not knocking it. I live in so much privilege as well. So I am not
Hmm.
knocking that.
Right.
But I think we forget that like the foundation is like, let's get food in bodies.
Yes. 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 Yeah.
Let's get some
Absolutely.
food in your bodies. Let's fuel your brain. And start there. So yeah, there is. And it's funny. Are you familiar with CBTI?
No.
Okay. So I have someone coming on my podcast. It'll probably air in April, maybe early March or late March, something like that. CBTI is cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. And
Okay.
basically it attacks insomnia from kind of a what's going on in your mind rather than have your magnesium and your threonate
So
and
good.
all of that stuff, right?
Yes.
Which
Yeah.
that can help. So
Right.
I don't want to poo poo that too much.
Right.
And I heard someone talking about CBTI one time, and they were saying they'd been working with someone using CBTI. And one of the biggest things that they pulled from that was stop obsessing over how much sleep you have. Like, stop looking at pulling up your phone. How much sleep did I get? How much deep sleep did I get? How much REM sleep did I get? How many times did I wake up? Be like the obsessing, and stop saying like, oh, I slept terribly or I woke up a lot or whatever, because our mind controls so much of that. And I wish I was smarter to be able to speak to it. So hopefully by the time this episode comes out, I'll have this guest on.
Yes.
But I think there's that kind of thing too, like to your point, like it's the stressing out about
Right.
everything is
Right.
not helping your overall health. In fact,
Absolutely.
could it be making it more challenging? Possibly.
I would agree with that. I'd put my neck out on the line to say that because the thing is, things work for a while. So there might be things you might be privileged enough, which I am as well, like, to be able to purchase a red light if I needed one or this and that, right? You might be able to do all these things, but then at some point it's going to start to feel very like, oh my gosh, I don't want to have to, like, where you're just not even, you're dreading it versus being excited about it.
Mhm.
And it really does put a damper. Like I was mentioning, things work for a time and then all of a sudden the body stops responding. Why does the body stop responding? Because we give it the same things over and over. And I'm not talking about just the same stuff that we're ingesting. I'm talking about doing all the external stuff too. Our body loves, it thrives on diversity. It's why we're supposed to go through seasons. It's why we're supposed to eat certain foods at different times of the year because it needs that diversity. If you're giving it the same foods, the same exercises, the same therapies over and over and over again, you're going to be like, well, my skin looked great for the first 6 months I was doing red light therapy. And now my energy's drained and I feel sick. Well, I hate to break the news, but your body's now revolting against that because it is wise and it is smart. So I will get off that soapbox. Sorry, listeners,
Well,
but
I really want to add one thing. Can I add one
yes,
thing to that?
go.
So as a personal trainer, there is it's not really a theory, but there's a concept in the training world called periodization. And
Ooh,
that is changing your workouts every so often. And the very best way that you can do that is changing your workouts when the seasons change or when they're supposed to change, because yours and my
love
seasons don't
it.
change very much
Yes, yes,
because your
yes.
body's going to respond. I mean,
Right.
you think about professional athletes. They
Yeah.
have an off season, they have a training season, they have in season, and our body's going to respond that way too. So changing that up to your point is going to help us and get either stronger or more efficient or something like that, because the body does get very good at being too efficient and then it's not doing what it used to do for you. So apply that periodization. Every time the quarter changes, do something different. Your body will
I
thank
love
you.
that. I love that. And as women, we can apply that periodization. I can see, can't even say it. Periodization. Well, however Amy said it, she said it more beautiful. But we can apply that even monthly, right? Week 1, week
Mm-hmm.
2, week
Mm-hmm.
3, week 4. If we're still in our bleed cycles, you need to be shifting things throughout each of that if you're still menstruating. So
Absolutely.
yay, Amy.
Yes.
This has been so fun. I love where the conversation has gone. I've loved the little trails we've taken. I know people are going to gain a lot from this. The final question I love to ask my guests is, because the podcast is called Your Body Speaks, in your experience, how have you really come to find out that your body speaks, whether it's you or with clients that you're working with? Yeah, share. Please
Yeah.
share.
Okay. So I hope it's okay, but I have some like real specific examples that I want
Love
to
it.
share with you.
Love, love, love.
This was probably, well, when I was like between 36 and 38, my body was just kind of falling apart. Honestly, now that I look back, it's like, oh, you were moving too much and you probably weren't fueling yourself well. But I would often have what would be considered a healthy dinner or something. And I was so gassy, Brooke. I can't even tell you, like, I was so gassy. And so my husband and I would start joking because I would always say, I don't know what the deal is. I was so gassy. Well, fast forward and through some allergy testing and then starting to pay attention to things, I realized I'm sensitive to onions and I'm
Mm,
sensitive to dairy. So I was
mm.
having these foods that generally speaking are considered to be good for you, but they
Yeah.
didn't work with my body. And so my body was speaking to me by being very gassy and having other intestinal issues that I won't mention, but you can imagine. And so there's that. And then more lately, I'll tell you, like right now, my body is speaking to me, pleading for some I'm just going to call it like foam rolling. I'm a big fan of foam rolling. I can tell you all about the benefits of it and basically like connective tissue work and working on my
Yes.
fascia and that kind of stuff. Ask me if I do this. The answer, I'll just tell you the answer. The answer is no. Because I'm always like, oh gosh, but I only have this much time and I'm trying to, and I'm always coming in hot and going out hot and all of that kind of stuff. And I can feel it. I can feel it in my lower back. I can feel it in my right hip when I'm sitting down for too long. And it is begging me to chill out and to do something different. So I have committed in February and March, I'm going to be a part of this little program for 60 days through an app that I'm a part of. And I'm committing to doing like 5 minutes of just body care. And so I
Well,
think too, like that's how my body right now as a 51-year-old is speaking to me. It's just saying like, move me in new ways. be gentle, but also pay attention. And that's not
Mm.
something that I ever even considered doing when I was, gosh, in my 30s. And I started doing it about 10 years ago. But little things like that, if you will stop and pay attention and say, why does my shoulder hurt? Instead of ignoring the shoulder
Yeah.
hurting like I did for a long time. I mean, like a year, because I'm like, well, I should be able to figure this out. And so I'm doing things. And, I finally go to an exercise therapist and he's like, oh, yeah, you're not engaging your back in this way. And sure enough, between the exercises and him working on me, it's getting better. So your body speaks in a lot of ways, but the question is, are you going to listen to it and respond?
Oh, I love that. Gosh, I love that so much. Because yes, and those were perfect examples and real life examples for you, Amy. And that is definitely what I teach listeners. It's really to pay attention. It's not about shutting up the signals. Like I understand there are times where we have a wedding or there's some big function and we need to pop a pill to get rid of a headache or something. But this is not every single time some sort of whisper or signal pops up in your body that you just dismiss it or ignore it or try to push past it or whatever. Because I always say your body is going to win. You try to do that for a length of time, your body will always win.
Yes, it does. Yes, it
I
does.
love, oh, this has been such a fun conversation. I could keep this going for so much longer. And I just appreciate your time and you being here. Share with my listeners how they can stay in touch with you, how they can get a hold of you, if there's anything that they can glean from you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. I actually have not been on the socials since June of 2024. You can
Okay.
you can DM me. I am Grace Health on Instagram, but I'm not on there very often because it just was not right for me.
I hear
The
you.
the best place to connect with me, to be quite honest, if this kind of thing is resonating with you, then I invite you to go to Graced Health. It's GRACED health, all one word, .com/health. And put your name, email in there, and I will send you 30 plus non gym ways to improve your health. So it kind of goes along with everything that we've been talking about. As much as I love movement as a personal trainer, as much as I love, plants as a nutrition coach, I love the integrated aspect of it. So I will send you there. And then you'll also get my twice monthly emails with 5 things that I'm loving. And I think you will too. So it's recipes and exercises or movements that I put on YouTube and all of that kind of stuff. I am on YouTube. I'm just at Amy Connell, Connell. So you can connect with me there. But the gracedhealth.com/health is probably the best way to do that. And hopefully by the time this episode comes out, I will be close to having my very sad and outdated website updated. So,
Yay! Awesome. Well, all those links will be in the show notes too. So if you are driving or you're out walking and you don't have a pen handy for you, the links will be there. You could just go into the show notes and click directly over to the places Amy said. So, Amy, thank you so much. Like I said before, I had such a great time with this conversation. I know a lot of people are going to love this, and I appreciate your time. So, thank you so much.
thank you. Thanks for having me.
See you next week.